Hello and welcome to episode 78 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing today?
Baruch Hashem, very good. It's the 2 days after Yom Kippur, 2 days before, well, we're right in the middle because we're doing this on Monday night. So Sunday and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So in the middle of the 4 days in between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, which are very special days. So we didn't say Tachnun these 4 days, no confessional prayers, because even though, Sukkot starts the holiday. So why didn't we say Tachnun today? Because these are like clean days. Once Yom Kippur passes, then we all got cleansed from any wrongdoing that we had done the past year, and everybody's busy with their mitzvahs, lulav and esrog and sukkah. So there's no time for sinning or any other type of narishkeit. So it's a happy time. It's a positive time. It's getting ready for Sukkot. We've got to focus on Sukkot. However, I got to tell you this, that today was my mother's yahrzeit. So that was, a bit of an introspective day for me. Thinking about my mother, even though it was 8 years ago, but, things don't... when you live life, you go on, you're living your life, doing your life. When you come to an anniversary of an event, it puts you back to, to start thinking about it in a current time. The year of mourning is a year of mourning. After that, you sort of have a different, you don't move on. That's a stupid thing to say, but you start living life like normal life and going about things. And like it says that one of the gifts Hashem gave is forgetfulness. So that, if you're in pain for whatever it might be, as time goes on, you forget it. It doesn't affect you in the same way. But then when you come to an anniversary and you start thinking about it, it sort of has, you talk about if somebody loses a parent, God forbid, you talk about it, oh, my mom would do this, my father would do this, my uncle, my this, my that. You talk about it, it doesn't affect you. But for some reason, like when it comes to the day of, it does have some kind of effect. So we got to turn everything into something positive. Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say, we have we have a set mourning period where, you're supposed to mourn, but then I guess my kind of understanding of it, having not actually been through it really myself, is just that it's, you have this set thing that's been set out for us in the way that we're supposed to go through the mourning period. And then once that's over, it's not like you said, you're supposed to turn it into something positive, right? Like you're supposed, not that you're supposed to automatically stop, missing the person, but that there's a certain level of not move on, but all right, you still have a life to live. You still have mitzvahs to do.
It's not only that. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. It's not just that. It's also, it actually says that if a person extends the mourning more than the prescribed time, it actually causes anguish to the soul. Interesting little twist in that. The soul doesn't want you to be dwelling in a negative way. It's all part of Hashem's plan. But I think to some degree, there are certain halachas or minhagim, whatever. On your yahrzeit, you don't go to a wedding. So so you do limit your joy to some degree. But you don't go into God forbid, you don't go into a state of mourning. And you see the Rebbe, the day before Rosh Hashanah is the yahrzeit of Tzemach Tzedek. Day before, 2 days before Sukkot is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe talks about this. He doesn't talk about it he talks about it in a very positive way, what I learned from their lives. So yeah, you have to learn from the people, and they remain with you forever and you do want to talk about it in a positive way, in an upbeat way, you got to, you accept the reality of what it is. But I think in some ways, it is more. It's a kind of a serious day. You're in a way you're reliving what happened back then. It goes through your mind. You don't think about it every day, but today you think about it. Day of the yahrzeit, you think about it. So yes, I was thinking about my mother a lot today, but not in a negative way. Just like memories and different things. Like Hani baked a cake yesterday. I think it's called biscotti or something, and she showed me on her phone. She has an index card with the recipe. She says, "Do you recognize this?" I said, "Bring it closer. I can't see it." So I knew you'd laugh at that. Then when I saw it, I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's my mother's handwriting." That's and she did that. It was very that was very special. And so I davened chakras this morning at Northeastern Minyan.
Mm.
And so I brought her along, and I told him that, this is. And Mendy has a daughter named after my mother, Esther Tirza. So it was very special to be in his house, in his Chabad house, with his minyan, and like his daughter is named after my mom. It was just very it was special. But it wasn't sad. It was like moving. It like, look, this is like life. This is like, you think about it. I remember when I was a year of mourning, and my friend Iki Shagalov, who's a shliach, but also he eventually became a psychologist. So he's doctor, rabbi, however they do it.
It's Rabbi
And
Doctor. According to Rabbi Dr. Abrams, it's Rabbi Doctor.
who's an expert on these things.
Yes.
So,
The
so
more
he.
important thing comes first. I'm pretty sure that's what he told us. So it's if you're in Britain, I think it was Lord Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Sachs.
Okay, that you,
Uh,
you couldn't put Lord after anything else in England. Come on.
right. But if you're outside of England where we don't recognize
England
that.
goes first, then the Lord. So I met him in Crown Heights, and he says, so we were talking because I think his father passed away recently after me, the same time I was in mourning. And we're talking about like how he feels like his father or his mother, whichever it was, like it's like near him. You could hear her talking to him. And that's that. I guess everybody processes it a little bit differently, but yeah, you can think like, oh, what would my mother say about this? What would she say about that? And it's in some ways, the person that passed away is as close to you as you let them be to you. Like as much as you think about them, because they're living in your they're living in your mind. So that as much as you entertain and allow them there to be there. So so go along, you think about it. Um, yeah, so that's yeah. So think about it today and different things. You know how my mother would react to certain things, certain behaviors and stuff. Because I was the youngest in the family for 6 years. I have three older brothers, one older sister. That's five, right? And then I have two younger sisters. One lives in California, and one lives in Israel. The number one Pos-cast fan lives in Israel, in Beitar. So I was for six. My sister younger than me, who lives in Westlake. She was born when I was 6 years old. So I was like spoiled for 6 years. I was the youngest. Now you understand?
Well, I mean, I had it for my whole life. I've always been the youngest. I guess
Okay.
until the dog came around, and then I
Oh,
became the quote unquote the quote unquote middle child after that.
so yeah, I mean, my mother. My mother was born in Germany, and people say like, oh, what German people are very have their certain ways of doing things, but whatever. So, but she was very, very neat. Like the house is like spotless always. But she wasn't obsessed about it. It wasn't like she drove us crazy about it. It was a natural thing. There was never toys left on the floor. You always put them away. Not because she made a big deal about it, because that's the way she raised us to begin with. And so that became standard. This is how you do things, which I think is very important in raising children in general. Because when people come to the Chabad house with their children for a Shabbos, whatever it might be, and I'm looking at like, the way that children behave I can see what if the parents are good parents or not. They're coming into someone else's house and they're running around like crazy. Like, where was these kids? How do you, or they're behaving really nicely. They're like sitting next to their father quietly in shul or whatever. I know they're kids. I understand kids run around and let their energy out, but also have a certain sense of respect. Anyway, so that was the way she raised us. But
That's where shul is where I notice it the most, because I very much grew up in a sense of like it's obviously we'd have our small little joking conversations and sometimes, but like it's a place where you're supposed to go and be respectful and pay attention and not be bouncing off the walls or being a big distraction. And then I see it a lot of times nowadays where it's there are people who are coming in and they have the screaming babies, and it's one thing if your baby starts to act up and you take the baby out, right? Or your toddler starts to act up and you take them out. The thing that gets me is when they leave the kid in and just let the kid make noises. I'm like, at some point, I get that you want to be dominating and you want to be in the shul and part of what's happening, but don't leave the kid in. Like, it's if the
right.
kid's being disruptive, you got to take him out. It's your responsibility at that
That's a different
point.
subject. We're not going to get into that about parents. We're talking about the children now. But I think that when you raise children with certain standards and certain expectations, then they live within within those guidelines, which is fantastic, which is great. And I think that's why how my parents, my father should be well, and my mother, bless Mary, how she there was a certain things that the way you're supposed to do it. This is the way it's supposed to be done, and so we grew up that way. I do, I have one vivid memory when I was a kid. Like I don't know how old it was, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know. That's before bar mitzvah. I would have like these nightmares. And I still remember, like I would see like big thing, like these creatures in my room. It wasn't a nightmare because I was awake, and I was terrified. Like these big shapeless things or something, and I don't know. It was like a night terror, I think they call it. And so I remember this thing like going downstairs. I would like go and like sit down outside my parents' bedroom. I wouldn't walk into their bedroom. I'd just like sit down there and like maybe knock on the door or something. But I remember one time just seeing going downstairs. My mother was in the kitchen baking. I just have this clear picture of the kitchen. There's a small kitchen in our house where we lived, and at the time I didn't know it was small. I thought it was a kitchen. That's a kitchen. It's a kitchen. It was functional. Anyway, and she was making a cake or something, and I came down. I was crying or something, and she said, "Okay, just sit down here." And I don't remember distinctly anything that she said to me, but just her calm demeanor. Like she didn't hug me and, "Oh wow, are you okay?" I think she knew what it was, and just her presence being there, and in some weird way, I think that lives with me. When I think about it, like there's someone to rely on, even though we're talking about like a number of decades ago. I'm not going to tell you because make fun of my age again, but it's so long ago. But
I called you young not 15 minutes ago.
okay, we're not going to get into that. So, um, so I'm saying, the impression that you give to your child when they're young, like many, many years later, it's like embedded in them. I'm sure there's some psychology about this, but it's embedded in them that there's like you're protected. Because you look in the world in general, are we safe or not safe? And there's two different ways of looking at it. People are always stressed about, like there's this one person who's like obsessed with COVID till today. And when it was really in its height, like wouldn't go anywhere, wouldn't do anything, wouldn't trust anybody, to really a bizarre level of care. Like she didn't see her parents for like 4 years, and then she put on 4 masks, and she got a driver and like a 15 passenger van. She sat all the way in the back. He was driving. He had to get tested, and he had to wear a mask. Like this whole craziness that like, and just me, it just seems like it's there's. I don't know. I'm not going to diagnose this person. That's not my business. But I'm saying there's a certain sense of like you're going to be okay, even though so you don't do crazy stuff. But you don't constantly walk in the street and worry about the worst thing that can happen to you. Now, obviously, as I'd like to do also with trust in Hashem, that's a great part of it. But I think from a psychological point of view, it's being cared for when you're young and being protected and knowing that somebody's there for you, watching out for you, which most kids should be raised that way in a healthy home. So that was, and I just knew that my mother was was always there for, the typical thing. When I was in yeshiva and somewhere, and I'd call up, my father would answer the phone, and we like talk for 2-3 minutes. He said, "Okay, wait a second, I'll get mommy." And I wasn't a kid then. I was like, a teenager, late teens. Like, well, you want to talk to your mother for the comfort and stuff. And so that was. I can look back and see like very solid foundations. Baruch Hashem, very solid foundations of people that knew what they wanted. As far as human beings, and being honest and being caring, being frum and being chassidish and all those type of things. It was a very, very solid foundation. So I'm looking. I think about today. I say, she must be happy and proud of what we've done, what we're doing, our children, our grandchildren. I went to my father last week, and I said, "Ta, give me a bracha." He said, I thought he was going to do the Yivrecha, Hashem Yishmerecha, the whole business, but no, he didn't. He wasn't thinking about that. He said, "What a bracha?" He said, "I give you a bracha. You should live to be as old as I am and have what I have, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren who are following in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs and chassidus." I said, "Oh, amen, amen." So that in my father's mind, that's, like he says now that he's at that advanced age, I come in, he knows who I am, without it, no, he knows all my brothers and sisters and all that. But then with the grandchildren, he says, "No, I draw the line." Because he'll be walking, they'll be outside, and or they'll be taking him for a walk, on Kingston Avenue, he lives in Crown Heights now, and people come over to him like, his great grandchildren or his grandchildren, like, "Oh yeah, whose are you? Like, who do you go? You got to go back up the tree, like which one are you?"
That's
But,
awesome.
Yeah, but it was funny because my sister, the one in Israel, her grandson is in Crown Heights now in yeshiva, and my father's outside, and a lot of yeshiva baruchim from Eretz Yisrael are in Crown Heights now for Yom Tovim, for the holidays. So he saw a few of his friends were standing around my father. So afterwards, he goes over to them and he says to them, like, "Who is that? Who's that man?" So they said, "Oh, Achshel Zusha Posner." My uncle Zushi, Olav Shalom, passed away like a couple of years ago. I'm not going to say any number because my brother said, "Ah, it was 3.5 years ago, 2.5, whatever." So he was a very charismatic chassid in Eretz Yisrael. Some people say I take after him. He was much more. He was much better at it. Let's put it that way. So, very sharp and very devoted. A very, very devoted chassid, and had no patience for foolishness and anything like that, and was very vocal about it. And people knew that he was a very loving person. It wasn't like he's a nasty guy, chas v'shalom. So, and he's well known in Israel. He's like very well known. So they said, "Oh, he's the brother of Zusha Posner." They said, okay, but what's about him? Who is he? They said, "Oh, he was alive when the Rebbe became Rebbe."
There are a lot of people who were alive when the Rebbe became Rebbe.
Not were alive, like were of age to understand what was going on.
Okay, yeah.
Not many Chassidim are left like that. Let me tell you, Baruch Hashem, it's a solid 74 years ago. So, you have to be at least 15 or, at least 15, 20 years old to be able to talk about it, to know anything what's going on. Anyway, so that's, yeah. So here's a follow-up. We got two more things to talk about. We're going to talk about a follow-up from Newbury Street, and then we're going to talk about Sukkot. So the follow-up from Newbury Street is that I got a message from a shliach who lives nearby. So when we were in Newbury Street, if anytime somebody came by and put on tefillin who knew another shliach somewhere, I take a picture and send it to him. Say, "Hey, look who put on tefillin with us today," or whatever. And this guy is actually said that his mother taught in the Chabad preschool in Lexington, Massachusetts, right? So I sent a message to Rabbi Yisrael New, son-in-law of Alti Bukit, who's the main guy there, my classmate. And I said, "Hey, do you know? You're like involved in the preschool. Do you know this guy's mother?" He said, "I know the mother, but I don't really know the kid so much." I said, "Oh, I just put on tefillah with him," and he said it was the first time he did it. So that was it, and I'm done. I'm not going to see the kid ever again, or whatever. I did my thing. So I knew. Sends me a message yesterday. He said that kid. He came to. He was visiting his mom because he's at college, and he was home, and he came to shul in Yom Kippur. And after Yom Kippur, I was talking to him, and he said, "Oh, you got you sent me a message that you met that I put on Rabbi Posner, but why did you say that I never put on before? I actually have a pair of tefillin. I must have told him I don't have tefillin or I don't do because I haven't done it in a long time." He said, "But since I met him on Newbury Street, I've been putting on tefillin like once or twice every week."
Mm.
And that was so beautiful and so amazing because all the things you talk about Newbury Street. Normally, we don't see the people ever again. I mean,
Right.
there are actually some that stay in contact, but not very many because most of them are just not from Boston, or they don't live nearby or whatever. So to hear this, that it was just nice because we always say, and Rebbe always taught us, do a mitzvah with a Jew, one mitzvah will bring another mitzvah. So I'm talking to the Peter Kleins out there who are putting on tefillin with people. I hope he still is.
That's a
And
big throwback right there. That was early on.
yeah. It's a solid year ago. Almost a
Yeah.
year ago, a little
Yeah.
less than a year. Yeah, we can look at the episode there. But to know that when you're doing a mitzvah with somebody one time, the Mishnah says mitzvah geras mitzvah. Mitzvah brings another mitzvah. But just to know that when you start you do a mitzvah with somebody, it can have an effect. And here it was tangibly. He's putting on tefillin once or twice. It was just a beautiful thing. It was like a gift from Hashem. Because when you put on tefillin with somebody, that's it. You did the right thing. You don't need to know that something else happened. This like, wow, to know that it got him reconnected to putting on tefillin a couple times a week is really fantastic and beautiful. So there's we thought we were done with Newbury Street 3 weeks ago. Boom. Newbury Street pops up on the Pos-cast one more time. Now we're getting ready for Sukkot. And Sukkot is a very happy holiday. So a couple of points. Number one is
Peter Klein, sorry, before you continue, Peter Klein was episode 26.
That's 51 episodes ago.
52, right? Yeah, it's almost exactly a year.
Yeah, there you go.
That episode came out. Does it give me the actual date here? October 18th. So 4 days short of a year ago.
Right, but on the Jewish calendar, it was a year because it was a
Yes.
13-month year.
Okay, continue. Yes, Sukkot.
So Sukkot, yeah. So we need to know, and this is one thing I think we mentioned this a number of times. Moods. What are you in a good mood? Are you in a serious mood? The Torah tells you what mood to be in. Rosh Hashanah is a serious mood. Yom Kippur is an introspective, solemn mood, and Sukkot is a happy time. And what that means, and the Rebbe taught us this so many times, when there's a problem in the world and you want to connect to Hashem to bring blessing to the world, you got to tap into the mood of the day. So if the mood is a happy mood and you're being solemn and you think that I'm gonna sit there and cry and say Tillim, it doesn't work. That's not the connection. The connection point is through joy, and to get more people to joy. But it's not frivolity. It's joy, being happy with what you have, being happy with what Hashem gave you, being happy doing the mitzvahs that Hashem told you to do. And so you're not forgetting those people. Like obviously we're talking about Israel. We're not forgetting the soldiers that are fighting. We're not forgetting the hostages that are still in captivity, which is hard to believe that. It's just unimaginable. The whole thing is unimaginable. So we're not forgetting them. What we're saying is we're dedicating our joy and we're focusing that energy to bring goodness into the world through the joy of Sukkot. And I don't know, we're going to put this up tonight so that people can be hearing this Monday night. If you have a home or an apartment or I don't know, if you have someplace to live and you don't have a sukkah, you got to go buy a sukkah tomorrow. You can buy one of these prefab deals. You can put it up in 2 hours. Ask somebody to help you. It'll go a little faster.
You got to get the motorized one. You know the videos of the guys on the bikes with the sukkah?
Yeah.
You got to
Well,
get one of those.
I don't know about that, but
It
you
might be a
get
little small to be allowed,
yeah,
but
if you have a family or something. But yeah, you gotta be in the sukkah. You gotta invite people into the sukkah. The sukkah is an amazing mitzvah because you walk into the mitzvah. Like tefillin, you put on your arm. Matzah, you eat, so it goes into your body. But here you are enveloped in the mitzvah. It's incredible. It's like going into a mikvah. Mikvah, you're like immersed completely. But
mm.
is there a mitzvah to go into a mikvah? Not today, not so much. But a sukkah is literally a mitzvah, and you're surrounded by the mitzvah. Beautiful. And then lulav and esrog, get yourself a lulav and etrog and find any Jew you can and say, here, hold it and shake it. Okay, say the bracha. Good. Say the bracha. It's a 1 minute. So I was talking to my buddy, my Newbury Street buddy for the past while. Yehonason Benjamin Shapiro, and he said, "Whoa, we can go next Sunday. We go to Newbury Street and say, ask people, excuse me, do you put on film today?" And people say no. So we didn't either. But you want to do a little of an esrog? That was like he's all excited about Newbury Street for next Sunday. Anyway, but it's
Oh
such an
man.
easy mitzvah to do. It's such a beautiful mitzvah, and
Yeah.
men and women can do it. So it's not like, oh, this you want, some can, some can. That's it's really important. We gotta, and it's unity. The unity is so important now, the sukkah is a unifier because you walk into the sukkah and everybody's in the sukkah together. So the sukkah is encompassing everybody. So we gotta invite our Jewish friends, our Jewish neighbors, anybody you know, to come into the sukkah, come and make the brachas, do kiddush if you do it on yontif, have something to eat, and and do sukkahs.
Yeah, it's funny thinking of sukkahs. I think the first time, and speaking of not wrapping tefillin because it's Chol Hamoed sukkahs, the first time that I spent a significant amount of time with Yisrael was sukkahs 3 years ago now, I think, and we were out on Com Ave with like at Marsh Plaza without you. It was me, him, and maybe one student, like one other student, with lulav and etrog and shaking with people and teaching them how to do it and the bracha. And yeah, I think that was the first time that we had spent like a good chunk of time doing stuff together.
So you can comes down south and join him. He's back on Commonwealth Avenue.
Yeah, yeah, right. No, it's just fun. It's funny to think about, right? Because now he's there in a more permanent sense, right? And
As
but yeah.
permanent as exile can be. His mailing address now is in Boston.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, now a little Rebbe on Sukkot. The transformation of Yom Kippur, serious to joy right after Yom Kippur, was just incredible. And it was so uplifting. The Rebbe was in such a state of joy. It was just walking into shul and we singing, and the Rebbe would encourage the singing, and just increased until obviously came to Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah. But one of the things that, we talk about it buying a beautiful lulav and esrog. So the Rebbe taught us that what makes it really beautiful, a sukkah is really beautiful when a lot of Jews come into it. An esrog and a lulav is very beautiful when a lot of people make a bracha on it. And people wanted to make a bracha on the Rebbe's lulav and esrog specifically. So the Rebbe would come in the morning, like especially the first day, come early, like 8 o'clock was there, and then the Rebbe would go they built in front of 770 a special sukkah that was called the Rebbe's sukkah, and he would spend a lot of time during the sukkahs in that sukkah. So he make the bracha on the lulav esrog in the sukkah. That's the custom of Chabad. And then a certain man the Rebbe would open the door, and the Rebbe would give him the lulav and esrog, and he would go into the bigger sukkah on the side of 770, where the weddings are now. The sukkah was there, and people would walk by, and he would hold the lulav in his hand like this, and people would grab it from the bottom, make the bracha, and then pick up the etrog, put it together, just give it a little shake, and then he would hold on to the lulav again. The next guy would come by, say the bracha, pick the etrog, you give it a little shake, and that would go on for hours and hours and hours until, like during davening starts at 10 o'clock. You have to use the lulav and esrog during Hallel. Someone would come and say, "Oh, they're almost davening Hallel." He would go and bring the lulav and esrog to the Rebbe, and after davening, the Rebbe would come out of davening back into his room again. he would stand there doing Luvanesra with people. And so on the first day, people would start lining up, like would be bringing all night, and like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd start lining up to be able to get a chance to make a bracha on the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog. Of course, what's really fascinating was in the last year, in 1991, the Rebbe himself walked out and stood in the sukkah and stood there like until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like crazy. It never happened before. It's nothing like this. And the Rebbe would stand there and watch every person walking by. He didn't hold it himself, but watch every person walking by. I was obviously here, not there in Boston, not in Crown Heights, but that was a very incredible thing. But just the memories of seeing the Rebbe walking in with his lulav and esrog and having a chance to make a bracha on the Rebbe's lulav and esrog was one of those special moments that Chassidim live for. And we always identify that with the yontifs. Every yontif with the Rebbe was like, what? Of course, it was like anything else. You did it like everybody else does it, but there's always something unique about being with the Rebbe that always remembered. It was Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe blew the shofar, like the unique way that the Rebbe went about that. On Yom Kippur, there were certain things that you watch for. Most prominently was at the end of Yom Kippur, when the Rebbe would stand on his chair and sing Napoleon's March. That was like the end of Yom Kippur. It was like, so that was like the moment of transition. The lively dancing and singing was the Rebbe literally standing on his chair. So people and clap with such energy as talos would get all flying. And it was on, like it was just these are incredible memories that stick with every chassid. I think when you're at the end of Yom Kippur, you just have these pictures flying through your head of those moments that you had with the Rebbe, and So as we move on to the next stage of month of Tishrei, we're going into the state of joy, and joy breaks all the boundaries and barriers. It breaks through the barriers of allowing the bracha from Hashem to descend to this world, bring peace to our brothers and sisters in Israel, and bring Mashiach now, mamish. And then we'll all celebrate together in the third Beis Hamikdash.
Amen. And with that, thank you so much for listening to episode 78 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.